Hey, do you use the Kudos dashboard? Well, we have done some awesome updates we want you to check out. Following the release of 4.77 on Kudos, there are so many cool features that you should stick around to learn more about. Okay, Yuri, let's take it away.
Hi everyone, I'm Yuri, I'm Principal Tam at AWS, and I'm also co-author of Kudos. And today I'm so excited to present you all the new features that we brought in latest release, and also want to cover a couple of releases back because we have a lot of exciting things to show you. First and foremost, I'd like to start with the latest feature which we added in Optics Explorer tab. So now in Optics Explorer, we added a visual which allows you to forecast your spend for next 6 months. Why it's interesting? Because you can forecast your entire AWS spend, but also here is a bunch of filters which you can use to focus your forecast on particular dimension. For example, I might have a situation where I want to forecast only RDS spend for next 6 months. So I can search here for service Amazon RDS, and here I am. Now my RDS is forecasted, and I can see what are the predictions for next 6 months for my RDS spend. I can do the same pretty much for any other service, depending on my business case. And also very interesting that I can do it on pretty much any filter available here, forecast by region, by accounts, by operation, usage type, even by billing entity. So you can forecast your, for example, marketplace, AWS marketplace spend, or just AWS services.
Nice. And I think one of the best things about this feature and this tab in general is Optics Explorer is based off of Cost Explorer, right? Similar setup. And in Cost Explorer, you can obviously filter. And one thing that customers say to me all the time is that because if they own multiple accounts, they can't forecast those together if they're not in the payer. If you're in Kudos and you have access to those multiple accounts, you can set up that forecast.
Yeah, exactly. Here in Kudos in Optics Explorer, we have a small addition, by the way, to what, for example, Cost Explorer offers is we also show top 10 resources and spend for those top 10 resources for any service. And we show also like in table view, also spend and usage for last 3 months. So it's kind of small addition on top of what you can get from Cost Explorer.
Yeah, I like the per resource. That's great because no offense to Cost Explorer, we love Cost Explorer, but that's the good thing about it, being based on the curve. Awesome.
Yeah, cool. Let's move on. So that's the latest release, but as I mentioned, we want to cover also the things which we released some time ago, so a couple of previous releases. And the next thing I want to talk about is Compute tab in Kudos dashboard. So in Compute tab, we added few interesting features. So for visuals, which shows you your RI, SP, or spot coverage, we added ability to switch between a usage unit like instance hours, which we used before, and normalized hours and cost. So by default now, we show you and visualize your usage in normalized hours.
I gotta ask, what is normalized hours?
Yeah, it's a great question, and normalized hours. Actually, it's a way how you can take into account the size of in instances when you reason about usage. Yeah, so let me give you an example. So if you have an instance like T3 small, for example, and this instance runs for 1 hour, you will have one instance hour and one normalized hour. So basically for small instance, we have normalization factor 1. But if you have T3 large or T3X large, for example, in our case, it runs for the same 1 hour, you will have, in this case, still 1 instance hour, but 8 normalized hours. So basically, normalized hours take into account the size of in instance, and they will show you basically hours multiplied by normalization factor, which can help you to more effectively assess your coverage and more effectively assess your usage as well.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah, so here in Compute tab, we have a bunch of the visuals which actually show you your usage. And as I mentioned, by default, now we show this usage in normalized hour. And another thing which I wanted to focus on in Compute tab as well, that we added here a switch in group by, allowing you to group your EC2 spend not just by instance family or instance type as we had before, but also by processor type. So now you can switch to this processor type grouping, and you can see how much you actually spending for different processor types. In this case, we see that, for example, Intel and AMD has the most of the spend. So it might be a good idea actually to consider migration to Graviton as a cost optimization opportunity here. And also here below, you have daily visuals, which allow you to also understand your daily spend and usage. And again, depending on your group by selection, you can see daily spend per processor types.
Nice. I like that, giving it a bit more of an option to see your costs makes it a little bit more easy to understand where, especially if you're looking at things like which of my instance types are being more flexible and things like that. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's move on. Next exciting thing is belongs to databases.
This is a big one, right?
Yeah, in databases tab, we actually cover many our databases services like Elastic Cache, OpenSearch, Redshift, RDS. So here, the first change is about visualization of database engines. Before like the release, we showed you only a cost of databases per engine only for RDS. Now we included all database services here. So for example, you can see how much in case of Elastic Cache, you can see breakdown of your spend for Elastic Cache between Memcached and Redis instances. And this basically allows you to see a full picture of your database spend. Also here, you can focus on particular service. For example, let's have a look on RDS. And yeah, for RDS, you will see a breakdown of only RDS database engines. And next big thing is the whole array coverage for databases bundle, which we added to Kudos. And it provides you several cool things. First, it allows you to see your kind of total array coverage for selected service, or you can see total array coverage for all your database services if you select them all. You can set your array coverage goal and basically see where you are comparing to your goal. And also very interesting part is we visualize your coverage per reservation dimension. And for example, you can see for each of dimensions like region, engine, and instance family or instance types for not safe flexible services, you can see coverage for all of those buckets. Why it might be important for you to see this data? And the reason is, as you can see here, in total, this demo customer might have 80% of reservation coverage. But in reality, we see that those 80% belonged to basically the two instance type, engine, and region categories or dimensions, while other dimensions were potentially, if you set a goal of 60% array coverage, they are not covered at all. So here you can see which dimensions are not covered, and consider covering them with up to 65% of your coverage goal, or depending, of course, on your spend and coverage strategy. But now you are able to see which dimensions are not covered at all and which dimensions are covered.
And this is, I think, more and more we're seeing that customers sometimes forget about the RIs for RDS. And so this gives you very constructive recommendations and a visual way to see it with all your other data, which I always love, that everything is in here, that you can get access to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cool part is that it covers like all the database services. So you can select Redshift, OpenSearch, Elastic Cache, and you will see your total reservation picture for all the services. So if for RDS we had 79%, if you bring into the picture rest of the services, it comes down to 18%. Yeah, and then you can see all the dimensions where basically your spend is not covered. Yeah, so this OpenSearch, and then all the services here are listed in this visual.
Yeah, lots of opportunities. Make some savings.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just better visibility for coverage. One interesting part, let me focus back to RDS, is we brought new visual to databases tab, which shows you spend per database storage. And this is important because it's usually also not taken a lot into account, especially for services like OpenSearch, where you can actually save money by migrating from GP2 storage, GP2 volumes to GP3. So let me also bring into picture OpenSearch. And being able to visualize databases spent for storage, it's important to actually understand whether you have some cost optimization opportunities. So in this case, we can see that OpenSearch runs pretty much fully on GP2 storage, for example. Yeah, and you can see how much you're paying for example, RDS Aurora IO, and for replication rights and all the internals and insights of your database storage.
Great. Yeah, I need to look into more about the GP3 for OpenSearch. That's great.
Yeah, and we actually put here recommendations like for consider using GP3 volumes for better baseline performance, and for OpenSearch they're actually around 10% have lower price. And another things to conclude about databases is, again, we added usage unit control, so you can switch between normalized hours, instance hours, and cost when you visualizing your coverage. And we also allow you to switch between instance type, instance family, and processor type. And again, in case, for example, you plan to migrate to Graviton, you can see what portion of your spend belongs to different processor types. And another thing is that you can effectively compare now daily hours of your consumptions and daily cost. So let me show you one thing. If I switch back only to RDS, I can see that now, because at this moment I purchased my Arise, at this day, the cost went down and a unit cost went down. So you can actually easily visualize results of your cost optimization actions and see how much you're saving.
I think that as well, especially with the unit cost, a lot of conversations people ask about my unit cost has gone down, but I know something has happened, but I'm not really sure. This you can clear, especially with the kind of sandwich of those two visuals together. You can see, oh, something, okay, that changed that day and then had this great impact.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole idea. Yeah, to actually to provide tools so FinOps practitioners could answer those questions. Yeah, why my unit cost went down or why my unit cost went up? Yeah, which usually is the most important.
Great, right. Is that the last RDS one?
There is one more thing which I wanted to cover is data transfer tab.
Right, yeah.
I like this change because here and sometimes in Kudos we go beyond a cost. Yeah, and in data transfer tab, now the new visual which we added, actually a great example of how we try to even go beyond cost and go into your operations and help you to visualize some operational risks. So in data transfer tab, we added visual which shows you single AZ VPC endpoints. So VPC endpoints allow your servers and applications connect to AWS services like S3 or others through VPC endpoints and without passing through the internet. And you can deploy these VPC endpoints into one AZ or multiple AZs. And in case you deployed them in single AZ, and in case this is a production environment, you have a pretty much high risk of having an outage and losing connectivity in case of AZ failure. So this is why it's very important to have visibility of which VPC endpoints and accounts actually are running in a single AZ. And the amazing part that you can visualize that out of cost and usage report. So it goes really beyond the cost.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you so much for those updates. Last question, Yuri. How do I check what version of Kudos I actually have?
Oh, this is a great question, and it's super simple. So we have About tab, and actually in Kudos and rest of our dashboards in Cloud Intelligence Dashboard Suite. And in About tab, you can see a version which you have. And if you want to update, you can go to Well-Architected Labs, the place where our docs are hosted for deployment, which most likely you use to deploy Kudos dashboard. And there are post-deployment steps section and update dashboard section. So you can basically go here, and there are 3 commands which you need to run in your Cloud shell, preferably, but any other terminal application would work as well, to update Kudos dashboard.
Amazing. All right, so just to summarize, go check out what version of Kudos you have, see if it's not 4.77, go and do an update, and then check out those new opportunities for optimization in your dashboards. Thank you so much, Yuri, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks everyone.